Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please have your seats. Take your seats. We've got a really exciting session for you for this next session. So we'd like to get started so you'll have time for questions and you'll have time to hear the whole presentation from the next two speakers. Okay, this is a policy session. The Tennessee Promise is the model for that President Obama has been talking about, and many of you have heard, and President Obama actually came to Ivy Tech and talked about this model as well. We're really excited to hear about this, and we're going to hear from James King, who's the Vice Chancellor for Tennessee College of Applied Technology and Tennessee Board of Regents, and also Chelle Travis, who's the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Services in Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technologies and the Tennessee Board of Regents. So again, this is a scholarship program and a mentoring program, and scheduled to begin July 1, 2015. And so we're excited to hear about this, and we'll let you all get started. Thank you.
You know, when we were told about this session, I thought, first of all, I thought it was going to be a small breakout session, and then it seems like it's grown a little bit. And we were going to wing it. Then next thing you know, we had to actually prepare for this. So, but if I know one of the two panel members quite prepared, the other one's going to wing it. So you can guess who that is. So, and you know, when we were also talking about this, I thought, who did I want out of this group to introduce to start it off? And I thought, why not President Snyder? You know, he's asked me a lot of questions about this. Or Paul Young, the chairman of the group. But then I thought, why don't we just let the President of the United States do it? So let's start out with that.
Today, I'm announcing an ambitious new plan to bring down the cost of community college tuition in America. I want to bring it down to zero. I want to make it free. I want to make it free. Community colleges should be free for those willing to work for it. Because in America, quality education cannot be a privilege that is reserved for a few. I think it's a right for everybody who's willing to work for it. Now, the good news is you already do something like this in Tennessee. You call it Tennessee Promise. And we're also taking another page out of Tennessee's playbook and making investments to expand technical training programs at community colleges, much like you do through your 27 colleges of applied technology.
All right, so folks, once this happened, the president came to Knoxville in January the 9th, and it's created a lot of enthusiasm across the country, and also gotten us a lot of questions. And you know, this initiative started out with our governor, Bill Haslam, but when a lot of people have asked me this, how are you doing? How are you doing? But you know, when you look back, this did not start a year ago. This probably in Tennessee started over 10 years ago. And it's something that's worked up to this point. But now Governor Haslam did realize that Tennessee's behind the curve when he came in. Governor Haslam is a businessman. And so he understands the need that we need employees to meet the demands of business and industry in our state. And so he had initiated a move called Drive to 55. Now, what does 55 mean? It means that he needs 55% of the adults in Tennessee to have some form of post-secondary education, either a bachelor's degree or associate degree or a certificate to be successful by the year 2025. At this point in time, only 32% of the adults over the age of 25 have a 2-year degree or higher in the state of Tennessee. So, and he felt like that if we followed the same trajectory, that we were only going to be at 39% by 2025. So we looked at a bold initiative, and it was the Tennessee Promise, And the other component that we will talk about today is Tennessee Reconnect. You know, and where we are right now in the state, and this really concerned our governor, at 32%, we were number 43 in the nation right now. And if you know our governor, he's a perfectionist. He wants us to be number one. So we still have a ways to go. So that's what started this. That's what started the initiative. But when you look at the Tennessee Promise, you think, where did you come up with this money? You know, I think that's a big issue. How did Tennessee decide all of a sudden to fund free tuition? But it goes back, I'm looking at 99, somewhat when Tennessee in the late 90s started talking about lottery. We had a lot of issues with gambling, even though everyone was driving right across the state line to all the casinos in Mississippi. But we had a lot of problems with gambling, and the legislature. So to get that bill passed, all the funds and proceeds from the lottery had to go to scholarships. Now, initially, I had a little problem with that because all of a sudden we were going to provide some great scholarships to our students, but none of the money went to start up and gearing up to accommodate the students. But we managed to make it work. And there were two components to the scholarship. There was the Hope Scholarship, which was for community colleges and universities. And Chelle will go into some detail a little later on what those costs were set aside for that. But for the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, we had our own separate scholarship, which was a boon. It was a technical skills grant, and when this was coming up, we would get a lot of attention about the Hope Scholarship, and once again, universities gets a lot of attention. So how do we get attention at the technical college side? And so I wrote a bill that provided scholarships to all Tennesseans that want to go to a technical college, as long as they meet the requirements to get into a particular program that they wanted. So nursing may be different than welding or things of this nature. So it didn't require ACT scores and things like this. And it was available for all adults and no matter what age. So it's called the Wilder-Nafee Technical Skills Grant. And it's moved on up. And the reason I'm giving you some background on this, so you look at how are we affording this. That scholarship at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology is $2,000 a year for students. So all of a sudden, we already had a big gap covered in the scholarships. And the same way with the Hope for community technical. So we had a gap covered. If you remember, this is a last dollar scholarship. And then back in 99, we had a couple of programs that began. One was the Asst Foundation in a little community in Parsons, Tennessee, a very rural community in West Tennessee, not far from my hometown. And Mr. Ayers had been one of those gentlemen that grew up in the Decatur County area and had done well. So he knew he had a county that very few of the individuals were going to college or going anywhere beyond post-secondary education. So he implemented a last dollar scholarship program for those individuals in his county, and it was highly successful. And he thought outside the box that if I implement this program and turn it over to the high school counselors with all their other duties, they would get all marred up and they never get done. So he also included him funding high school counselors that only dealt with the Ayers Foundation money. And those high school counselors became mentors for all the high school students. They visited every home of every graduate in Decatur County and met with parents. So it was a highly successful program. Then this program modeled in Knoxville. And if you remember, Knoxville is the home of our governor. Our governor's former mayor of Knoxville. So he was quite involved with this program. It was called Tennessee Knox Achieves. And so once again, it was a last dollar scholarship, and they took it one step further by having mentors for every student that was in the Tennessee Achieves program. So we've sort of evolved over time, and then the Knox Achieves went on and sort of started moving across the state, and we had probably a third of the counties prior to the governor initiating this statewide that were involved in some sort of last dollar scholarship program. But the most exciting thing about this is that, let's just take, for example, last November, we had a deadline of last November for Tennessee Promise, for the high school students to sign up for this. And if you did not sign up by November 1st, you are not going to be eligible in the fall. And, you know, as we all know, with high school students, they like to wait to the last minute, just like a lot of students do. So we had a lot of counties that required every high school senior in most of the counties to sign up for the Tennessee Promise. So we had 58,000 students sign up for the Tennessee Promise by November 1st. And you think about that, folks. We had 58,000 students that were signing up for community and technical colleges. You had 58,000 families that were discussing community and technical colleges. You know, I'm a mentor, and I think I have 7 left mentees right now. And I went to my first mentor meeting. It was at Riverdale High School in Murfreesboro. And they had the auditorium set up just for all the mentees to come in. And I had a row, number 17, and I had my students sitting there. And they planned the auditorium full of just mentees and the mentors. I showed up at Riverdale High School, and it was chaos. Because not only did the mentees show up, their parents showed up, their siblings showed up. And folks, think about, when have we had this much enthusiasm in a state for community and technical colleges? And they showed up, they were excited. It's free. But at the same time, there's some components built in that is just not a giveaway program. You know, you'll hear from Chelle, you have to do community service, you have to have the mentor, and there's a lot of structured deadlines. And the other component of this is Reconnect, which is only geared toward the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. And it got put on the back burner a bit because we didn't want to confuse high school students. So we let the high school students get all signed up for the promise and geared up. Then last week, introduced Reconnect. The governor and I went from one end of the state to the other, introducing Reconnect. And where the governor went, the press followed. One of the greatest marketing tools in the history of the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, I can assure you. I mean, it was good stuff everywhere. By the end of the week, 5,000 adults that were not in any form of post-secondary education has already signed up for the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. In 1 week's time, 5,000 new adults came out of the woodwork because of this program. And it's growing every day. I think yesterday, Shelly's got an app that every time a student signs up for Reconnect, their name that pops up. Yesterday, this time, it was 4,076, something like that. Today, we're over 5,000. I think we're 5,064. So we can monitor this every day. So I guess the point I'm saying is that this has created a lot of enthusiasm. And the thing that is being funded out of lottery scholarships, that's where it's all. You know, it's not costing as much as you think because we planned it over the past 10 years. And the lottery reserve, this money from the lottery reserve is going into this program to fund it. And right now, it's solid. And I think it's going to continue to be solid. So the governor's excited. We're excited. And the governor is just preaching post-secondary education at the community and technical college level all over the world. You know, he's had, at every one of the sessions, he's introduced students. Let the students tell their stories, how this could have impacted them had they, they not. So and I think you'll see a video a little later that you'll see the enthusiasm from students, from the directors, and from the governor regarding this program. So I'm going to turn it over to Chelle to the I-dotting and the T-crossing, and then I'll come back and tell her to answer any questions. So, anyway.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Chancellor King. And it is a very exciting time in Tennessee, actually, to be in technical education. I've been with the technology colleges for the past 13 years, and I don't know of any other time that I've seen more excitement about technical education in Tennessee. And I don't think, for those of you that have been around for a long time, we're not the best kept secret anymore. I think the secret's out. And I think this program did a huge part to do that as well. So I want to cover just a few things. Sandra asked us really to talk about some of the eligibility requirements so that others from other states could really understand how the promise works. So to be eligible, you must be a Tennessee resident, you must be a high school graduate, or you must have your GED or HiSET by the age of 19. The Promise program is actually for high school students immediately following their graduation. So they do actually have to go directly into technical education to be eligible. They must have not earned an associate's degree in high school. So if they are a dual enrollment student, they can't have earned an associate's degree. Now, if they've earned a certificate or a diploma with us, they are still eligible for Tennessee Promise. So they can go on and be eligible there. And they must complete an application. Each year they must complete that in the fall of their senior year by November 1st. And then they actually have to enroll immediately with the TCATs. They can actually come to us in the summer. With our community colleges, they have to come actually directly in the fall, unless it is a program that does not have a fall start, or the student is on a waiting list to get into the program, or there are additional entry requirements. So there are some exceptions there. They must meet all Promise deadlines prior to enrolling, and we're going to talk about what those deadlines are. So who is the Promise for? It is a last dollar scholarship specifically for recent high school graduates. So what that last dollar means is if you are eligible for any waivers, your parents might be educators in the state of Tennessee, we take those first, and then we apply gift aid. We have modified in Tennessee our definition of gift aid, so students may be eligible to actually have money for books at the end as well. So it's a last dollar scholarship coming after TAILS, which is Tennessee Education Lottery Scholarships, like the Hope and Wilder Napier that Vice Chancellor King spoke about. TSAA, which is another assistant grant for our most needy students, and then Pell. So those three forms must actually be applied first to a student's tuition, and then Tennessee Promise comes in and pays the rest. If a student has an outside scholarship, for example, a Rotary scholarship or a Kiwanis scholarship, you have a third party that is coming in and paying a portion of the tuition, a student can use those scholarships to pay other fees, to pay insurance fees, car or books or any other thing that they may need in order to get through their education. It is for tuition and mandatory fees only. So it does not apply for any special course fees that a student may have for their specific program. At a technology college, we have three. Welding has a special course fee, our practical nursing and our truck driving have special course fees, and it does not apply actually to those fees or to books, supplies, so our tools or any insurances that a student may have to be part of that program. It also has a mentoring component. As Vice Chancellor King mentioned, many of the students that we see are first in their family to actually go to college. And so the mentor comes alongside them, and going to college can be a very daunting task. If you've never been on a college campus before, just going through the application process. And this mentor actually walks through their FAFSA application with them and actually enrolling and selecting what programs they are interested in. It has a community service requirement, so it's not free. Prior to enrollment, they must do at least 8 hours of community service, and each trimester for us, semester for community college, they must do 8 additional hours prior to the next term. And they must be enrolled in a full-time TCAP program, or they must be a full-time student at a community college. And they must begin, they cannot delay, this is a large portion of this program, they cannot delay their start in their program. They must actually enter in the fall or the summer unless special considerations apply. These are just some of the deadlines so that you can see the application deadline. There is a FAFSA deadline, so students can't just show up on your doorstep in the fall and expect to receive their Tennessee Promise. I think the governor's office, as well as our mentoring partners and the TBR system, we've done a really good job of getting this word out and making sure that our students know that they don't just show up and receive it. There are deadlines that they have to meet. And after each one of these deadlines, the FAFSA deadline, the mentoring meetings, these are required. Students cannot miss these meetings. It has to be a sanctioned school event, or you must have a doctor's notice, or you are not excused from these meetings. You must actually, if you are excused, you must reschedule your meeting. So these students actually have some accountability early on into the program. And then they must apply to a College of Applied Technology or a community college, and then they must actually complete their verification for you student services and financial aid folks. They must complete their verification for Pell prior by August 1st for community colleges or October for us. So our numbers, Vice Chancellor King mentioned, we have 58,000 students, a little over that, actually apply for the Promise and meet that November 1st deadline. That is over 90% of all of our high school graduates for this year. So that's a very good number. Even if these students don't immediately go with Promise intact, we've talked about it. We began a dialogue in those homes. We have just over 30,000 that actually have met their first meeting requirement, and they filed their FAFSA on time. So after that, you do see that we did have a drop-off in applicants. In the end, we anticipate to have an approximately 18,000 students actually on day one and show up with their Promise intact. Just based, and these numbers are actually based on the prior programs that Vice Chancellor King talked about. That's based on the percentage that they see within their program. This represents, and Dr. Schneider asked me this yesterday, about a 2 to 3% increase for this first year in the college going rate. But what we hope to do is not only start the dialogue and get them there, but because they have mentors and they have assistants along the way, and they have that last dollar scholarship, we remove some barriers. We hope these 18,000 or more, that would be wonderful if there's more, will actually complete college, and that is actually our goal there. What is the fiscal note for this? We're working on an amendment currently. It will be a little bit higher than the number that you see, but it's anticipated to be approximately a 9.3. It will be higher, but fiscal note annually for this program for the last dollar scholarships. So how does it work? You can see if a student receives gift aid in excess of their tuition, they do not receive any Promise dollars, but we're still going to consider them Promise students because at the TCATs, even though at the community colleges we said it's going to increase our college going rate to 2 to 3%, for the TCATs, the 18-year-old student that shows up on our door is actually a non-traditional student for us. We have less than 10% of our full-time student population statewide is in that 18 and 19-year-old age range. If a student after gift aid has excess, you can see that the student, the second student would actually receive Tennessee Promise. And it is possible if a student does not receive anything that is considered gift aid, that Tennessee Promise would actually pay 100% of that student's tuition. And I'm not going to go spend very much time on our next slides because I want to actually make sure that we have time for questions. But this is just how the process works with the student applying and then immediately applying application. They are actually paired with their mentor. The mentor gets an email as well as the student, and then they are allowed to communicate through different avenues and then prior to their first meeting. One key piece of this, I think, for the students is the mentoring program. Then they have their FAFSA deadline, and we have a sweep, and we know how many students are left after the FAFSA. They go to their first mentor meeting, and a second mentor meeting, and then the student applies to their eligible institution. And then hopefully, we're hoping that in the fall, we'll have 18,000 new Promise students begin classes. So to retain Promise, students actually must maintain continuous enrollment, meaning that they cannot exit and then choose to come out back in order for any reason other than a leave of absence for medical reasons, military reasons, that they may have to have non-continuous enrollment. They must maintain satisfactory academic progress, so they must attend classes and they must keep their grades up as well. And then they must complete 8 hours of community service each year and complete the Promise renewal application by July 1st of each year and complete their FAFSA. A terminating event for Promise is if a student actually completes a diploma program. For us at a TCAP, we are non-degree granting, so that is our the highest level of diploma that they can achieve, or an associate's degree. For us, we have embedded certificates, and I know that many of you do as well. An embedded certificate, if a student reaches that level, that is not considered a terminating event. Or after the student receives Promise for 8 trimesters or 5 semesters. That's the full length of Promise. This just shows you the TennesseePromise.gov website. If you'd like more information, this is where a student goes to actually sign up. It's also where mentors and parents can go for additional information. This is what you can expect to see on that website. And this is where this initiative grew, actually on social media. For the parents, it was on Facebook, and the parents were communicating on Facebook and learning about it on Facebook. For the students, it really took hold on Twitter. And we saw a lot of our campuses that had never really been active in social media. This pushed them to have to become active on social media as well. And so the next thing that we want to actually share with you is, we want to make sure that we have time, is a little bit about Tennessee Reconnect.
You know, folks, as I said once before, this all started with the lottery scholarship program. And, and I think when we found out that we had like $110 million in excess in sort of reserve funds for that. And so the governor moved about $47 million of it into an endowment for this. And so anything that ever goes above the $110 million in excess each year goes into this endowment each year. So, it's being funded. There was, if we'd have walked in in the legislature and said we need another $47 million, it would have never got done. The money was there. So the program has been well thought out and well planned. But I think the other things that when you want to explain something, the 58,000 that signed up, we did that to ensure that all students were signed up. Some of those students if they were going to University of Tennessee, if they were going to Middle Tennessee State University, if they were going to Harvard, they filled out a Promise application. So we knew that 58,000 was not all going to show up. But we ensured that one student that was going to wait till the last day would not miss his opportunity for the Promise. But what it did more than anything else, it generated 58,000 conversations regarding higher education and regarding community colleges and technical colleges. And the other component that's important in this is the mentor component is tied. We want these students to complete. There's a lot of hand-holding. And I think that's one of the biggest components. And no one has done a better job of that across this nation than the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. So we've now taken that to the community college level as well. That with the mentor program, you're keeping up with your students, someone that they can rely on. Many of these students, as we all know, have no parents at home that's ever been to college. Filling out a FAFSA form, parents don't know anything about that, in a lot of these households. So we sort of ensured that the hand-holding process will allow. But the next component, like Shelley said, is the Reconnect program. And That program is not that costly for the state because with the Wilder Navy Technical Skills Grant already in place, it's going to be a very inexpensive program for the state. But what it has done is been a huge marketing component. You know, we have a lot of students that are not going to qualify for funds as a result of Reconnect because they're already getting a Pell check, you know, after the lottery scholarship. But we could not go out and tell Sue, you can come to a TCAT at no cost until after she's filled out the FAFSA form and done all this. Now we can go out and market that you can attend the Tennessee College of Applied Technology at no cost because the governor has ensured that. So I'd like to show you a brief video about Reconnect.
You're an adult in Tennessee. We can tell you can go to a TCAT for free. I mean, basically, if you get right down to it, that's what we're telling Tennesseans. If you're an adult, you can go to a TCAT for free. These are very practical degrees where we have high job demand. But when you have 85% placement rate in something, that's extraordinary. That 85% of the people that complete a program actually can then go get a job. You know, you go to your best Ivy League college and they won't have that kind of placement rate. So it shows the practical benefits that are happening in our TCATs right now.
From Elizabethton to Memphis, there are TCATs within 50 miles of every citizen that are standing ready, especially with the help of Reconnect now, to be able to ensure that if a person wants a skill set in this great state, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to get it.
It's more or less a golden ticket for the students that are the people that wanted to go to school and never really had the opportunity.
It'll work a lot the same way that Tennessee promised us for students coming out of high school. We're out traveling around the state to make a simple point. If you're an adult in Tennessee and you'd like to go back to get a certificate at a TCAT anywhere, we'll provide the last dollar scholarship for that to happen, which really means, like I said, any adult in Tennessee can now go get their certificate from a TCAT.
So folks, you know, from a standpoint, you can't buy that marketing, you know, and there. So I think, but once again, as I told you, in a week's time, think about this. 5,000 adults have already signed up to this program. So I think you're going to continue to see that. Followed with this, we had, Chelle knows, we had Promise Saturday on every community and technical college across the state. For students have free pizza and they showed up. We had Reconnect Saturday. So the governor has really marketed this. This is a program that he's proud of, and we want to see huge results out of it. And Chelle will give you a brief overview of Reconnect, and then we will answer any questions, or try to anyway.
And Reconnect is much like the Promise, so I'm not going to spend just a lot of time going through a lot of the same qualifications. But the difference is Reconnect is for independent adults. So you must be determined to be independent by your FAFSA. You must be a Tennessee resident for at least a year. The recipient, your application is actually your FAFSA is your application, and you must be in a full-time certificate or diploma program. Students that have never received Reconnect are eligible to receive Reconnect. So what that means is it doesn't matter if you have a TCAT diploma and you're coming back, if you have an associate's degree and you're coming back, if you have a baccalaureate, a master's, a doctorate, and you're coming to a TCAT and you've never received Reconnect, you are eligible to receive Reconnect one time. It is a last dollar scholarship, again, just like the Tennessee Promise. However, it doesn't have the mentoring component and the community service requirement. So students, as long as they're in our full-time program, they are a Tennessee resident, and they are eligible, determined by the FAFSA, they're an independent student, they can be eligible for this without the additional deadlines and opportunities. It does not cover your special course fees, your books, or anything like that. But if you have outside scholarships, you can use those. It doesn't preclude you from using those to actually cover your other expenses. So that is just a basic rundown of actually the Reconnect program. We're very excited about this. I don't know in my time at the TCAT that I've ever seen more excitement in the state of Tennessee for what we do. We know in a short period of time at a Tennessee College of Applied Technology, like many of you, we can change lives. We can change the lives of students, families, and community members. And I'm so proud to be in a state where our leadership, both at the state level with the governor and at the Board of Regents, is so committed to the success of our citizens in the state of Tennessee. The governor's made a very bold promise in saying not only can every high school graduate get a 2-year education from either a TCAT or a community college, but also those independent adults that want to come back and to further their education, they can do that at a College of Applied Technology. And with our completion and placement rates at a College of Applied Technology, they're not only going to complete, they're going to get a job in their field. So I'm very excited about this program for the state of Tennessee, and we'll open it up to any questions that you have. And also, if you have any questions about following this program, about Tennessee Promise, and you want to know more about the legislation, I drafted the legislation for the Reconnect, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you and any questions that you have.
One over here first.
Yes.
One quick question. Do you have any type of limit in a program? Like, say, everybody wants to be a dental assistant. You have caps in certain areas.
So we say that that's one great thing about the app that I have. It also will tell us what programs those students are interested in. So we do have certain programs that only will allow, and actually all of our programs have a limited amount of space each term. So we are working with those. Actually, the mentors, part of what we supply the partnering organizations with are the numbers of students that we have that are signing up for each program. So if Knoxville has a very long list for diesel, next door, 20 miles down the road in Harriman, we may have an opening in diesel, and so trying to get the students that way. But we're currently working with this. So we do have limitations like that. So if a student is on a waiting list, there is only so many students that we can take in that program. Promise actually has a built-in safety net for those students. Those students don't lose their Promise because they can't enroll in that program on day one. As long as they continue to meet at a College of Applied Technology, as long as they continue to meet eligibility requirements, they can come in when there's an open seat available.
If you drop out of the program or you graduate, you have any obligation back to the state?
No.
Fine, this is only good for the school that you mentioned, if you have a private college or they're not part of this.
We actually do have some 2-year institutions that are, if they have an associate's degree, there are some private. Now, what they receive, they only receive for private institutions, they only receive the amount that they would receive at a community college for that last dollar. But they are eligible, they have to be an eligible institution, and they're only eligible for associate's degrees. So there are a few 4-year institutions that are eligible, but the students have to be enrolled in those associate's degree programs.
Right here.
You first.
You're right. My name is Michael Black. I'm an academic advisor at ATEA. And I'm wondering about the mentoring. What are the qualifications for a mentor? Are they a college person or an industry person? And I'm also wondering, what do they do in these meetings with students?
Okay, so we both serve as mentors. Through the process in this the year that we have over 10,000 Tennesseans signed up to be mentors. They do have to go through a background check. There's an age requirement. They do have to go through a background check in order to be a mentor. And then the partnering organization actually has a program. You have to attend a meeting, and you actually do have to go through training to be a mentor. The requirements for the mentors is the basic requirement is that they need to make sure that their students get to their 2 meetings, and they attend those 2 meetings with their students, and actually go through the process with them. That's the basic requirement. But most of the mentors and what they do, we actually get a booklet of sample texts that you can send your students to remind them. I'm a lead nagger, I guess, when it comes to my student. That becomes my title is, did you complete your FAFSA form? Have you completed your application? Remember, next week it's our mentor meeting. You have to be there 2 hours before. Where are you? Are you coming to your mentor meeting today? So it's making and ensuring that the students meet those deadlines. And then on another note, not all mentors do this, but what we try to do with our students as well is we try to make sure at our meeting, have they been on the campus? If they haven't, can I help you arrange a campus tour with you? What are you interested in? If you don't know, let's try to figure that out. Let's go to the campus and let's try to work with them and let's try to figure out what program might be.
Most of them
the
are
best
not
for you.
academic advisors.
Most of them
it's
are
just
community
simply
members.
you're still going to connect them with the right people to get that done. I know last year, the first year that they had a program called Tennessee Achieves, which is very similar to this we had mentors last year. I had a group that are concerned about the FAFSA reform, and matter of fact, since Chelle works in office, I asked her to meet with that entire group, and next thing you know, she had a big group. They just kept coming when they had. We had started out with 3, and next thing 60 wanted to discuss FAFSA reforms, but you got the FAFSA reforms filled out. So so the qualifications are basically volunteers, across the public. All right.
Yes, Susan Bigelow from Northern Wyoming Community College District in Wyoming. And my question is on the deadline for the FAFSA reform. And because I know that I personally didn't receive everything I needed to be able to file my taxes by February 15th, and many others don't as well. So I know that there are recommendations federally to these prior years, so that for the February 15th deadline you can use 2013 tax returns. Are you actively advocating?
Will file is what we advocate for. That's what they need to put, is that they will file. And that's the box that we actually, Maddie's shaking her head, yes, that's actually that they will file, and then they can go back and amend those. That's what, and now, and we won't get into this is a different session, but there are looking at changes and using at the federal level, hopefully prior to prevent some of this in happening as well. The February 15th deadline, the reason it's there is TSAA students, that is the first cutoff, and it's we want to make sure that they're eligible for all of that aid. So if they complete their FAFSA, we're trying to make sure that they're eligible for all aid that's available to them.
That's a Tennessee Assistance Scholarship.
Yes.
You bring up a great point of that mentoring with the parents about how to fill out the FAFSA is very critical.
And that's one great thing.
Which boxes to check.
And mentors are not required to know how to complete the FAFSA. They do help them, but we have days, and we work with our partnering organizations where we have time at the post-secondary level, the institutional level, where we can help those students as well. So the mentor makes sure that they have it. Some of them take them to their campus, but making sure that they do get that complete by the 15th.
All right. So. Oh, no.
Okay, so absolutely not. If they're not Pell eligible, they get more money. So it's the last dollar kicks in. First, we apply Pell, we apply TSAA, and we apply any other lottery scholarship for what is owed on their tuition. After that is when Promise kicks in. So if they are Pell eligible, if they're not Pell eligible, if they're not eligible for any of those 3 programs, they would get their entire tuition paid.
So that's unique. That's what's so unique about this program. It hits the middle class and even upper middle class. Sometimes that where you may be stretched and you may not be eligible for Pell, but still got other debts and cannot go. So yeah, it's a unique thing about this. It's sort of rare in the world of financial aid to actually benefit, from this program. Because if you saw the slide that Chelle actually had that slide that said of no aid, and that they covered the full scholarship there.
I was trying to get through that.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, there.
See, number C, basically that student has no aid whatsoever. So they got the gap is fully covered.
Yes, sir.
So obviously, if they're not program eligible, do you post them to maybe get a loan?
We actually, we don't have loans in our system. So we actually made the decision many years ago not to participate in the loan program. So our students, we have enough aid available in our state, and we have for a number of years that our students don't need the loan program.
But to answer that question, if they're not Pell eligible, their tuition is covered. Now, if they choose to take out a loan to live and do other things, but now some of the community colleges actually have a loan program.
Yes.
We're getting a lot of our community colleges even out of the loan program now because you see, and somewhat to protect the student from themselves. That's why we got out of the colleges in applied technology 20 years ago. Was we had, once we got this lottery scholarship in play, we basically to protect the student from themselves because they were still somewhere eligible for that. But so if they choose to get private loans, that's their business. But even without Pell eligible, their tuition is going to be covered. All right, Sandra.
Could you go through the degrees again? My understanding was that you can't have an associate degree.
And that's a little hard to understand. So we talked about two programs. Promise for recent high school graduates. Okay, so high school graduate has to go directly into their program the fall after their senior year, unless any other. They can't have received an associate's degree for Promise. You can't have received an associate's degree while in school. And the terminating events for Promise are a diploma at a TCAT or an associate's degree at a community college. Reconnect is only for independent adults. That's a separate program, and only at a TCAT. Anyone is eligible for that, no matter what degree you have, as long as you've never received Reconnect before.
So Sandra, the previous session talked about, I thought it made a good point about, that philosophy major that's underemployed. And I will share this, and this is probably, but that individual that I saw a bumper sticker recently, and folks in Tennessee claim I made up the bumper sticker. I did not. It said, "Hello, I have a degree in liberal arts. You want fries with that?" Okay, so for that individual. For that individual, that they can come and get a real job, and so anyway. So, any other questions?
Any other questions?
Paul? Yes, you can sign up for Reconnect.
One question is, I know with the lottery scholarship that you've really had your students across state for this, so I'm curious how you see this impacting enrollments in line. Increase it even though they're getting it free. And then secondly, do you have many mentors coming from the business community? And if so, how did you go about getting those people engaged?
So the first thing is, do we see it increasing? Do we see those increasing? I think the major impact of the Promise that we will see is we'll see a difference in our student population. Our average age at a TCAT is well over 30. Like I said before, we don't have a lot of graduates that go directly from high school into the TCAT, so I see that being a change in our enrollment. The second thing is absolutely, and the reason is it's not so much because you could go to a TCAT, or for many of our students, 75% of our students statewide receive Pell Grant funding, and the majority of those students receive full Pell. And so most of our students are not going to have a large gap. However, the big difference is the marketing and the marketing and the attention that technical education is getting, and the fact that parents and community members are now understanding that their children and them themselves, they can come back to technical education and they can get a really good job and a successful career.
As I said, 5,000 students signed up last week, and those were students that these guys would have had to beat the bushes somewhere out there. Fine. So, just with the press and going from one city to the next, you had 5,000. So those are individuals that we probably would not have gotten anyway. Now, back to your other question, the mentors, probably right now, there's probably not as many business mentors.
There's a lot of community. The thing is we don't actually, the mentors are recruited from the partnering organizations. So the makeup of those mentors, we don't necessarily know. When we see them in a mentor meeting, they're members of their community. So they may be. There's a board of statewide business members that actually run the different partnering organizations. So they may be actually at the table, and the mentors. The thing is that the makeup of the mentor.
And I'm sure they will be more recruited. You know, and the governor has actually set up teams in every schools with business and community leaders to be ambassadors for the Reconnect program, especially. And you know, and there's some maybe county mayors, you know, folks that are interested in the economic development of their community. That county mayor may recruit. I know a couple of counties where they've recruited business leaders to help them promote, because the business leaders have most to gain from really Reconnect from the economic development standpoint of it.
And that's where we needed help getting the word out. For Reconnect, for Promise, we knew where those students lived. They were in high school. They were a captive audience. For Reconnect, it's any independent adult in the state of Tennessee. So each one of these advisory committees made up of business and industry members for Reconnect is going to help. How are we on time? Okay.
One last question. All right, right here.
One of the pushbacks we do with a program like this are that students don't have any skin in the game, so therefore they're less likely to complete and take it seriously. What do you feel that is actually on this program?
You know, I feel the Reconnect program will not impact those students as well, because first of all, there's adults. I think we made them aware of this, and they may have thought they've had barriers, and we have done such a good job with those adult students, and with 82% completion rate, so we can handle that. The high school kids, you know, we're still waiting to see, but I think that's why we put in place the mentors and some of the other things that where they've got some skin in the game through the community service, and so that's. But we're hoping that it will improve completion rates. But our community colleges have made huge strides over the past 4 years in setting up programs for completion. So that's a wait and see. We can tell you in a year.
And the model that this is made after Tennessee Achieves, they do have higher completion rates than the average high school graduate coming directly out because of the mentoring, because of the community service. That is their skin in the game, and because you actually set up accountability with the deadlines prior to.
And the other thing that I think that makes a big difference is starting time, continuous enrollment. You know, and I think that's what we found out with the Wilder Napier Skills Grant years ago, the continuous enrollment. You know, my philosophy is the longer you stay in school, the less likely you are to graduate. So if you drop out a semester, you know, and at the TCAS, the continuous enrollment means you can't take summer off. You know, it's a trimester type thing. You know, so I think the continuous enrollment, if they lose their scholarships, important. And if you're a parent, you're going to make that kid go to school. So I think there's some things built in. You know, we are going to have some dropouts, I think, for sure. But I think this generates so much enthusiasm, so much, you know, for higher education in the state. And it's been big. And so it's exciting to see that. All right. Thank you.